The morning of my brother's rehearsal dinner, I passed by the bridesmaid's room to drop off a gift. The door was slightly open. I heard her say, "He's nice, but I could never love him." Another voice whispered, "Just smile. You'll be set for life." I froze. Hit record. Confronted her. She threatened to ruin me if I told. That night, I sat beside my brother, handed him my phone. He read the transcript, then took the mic and said, "The morning of the rehearsal dinner, the house was humming with nervous energy and the scent of espresso. Our family had rented a large lakefront property for the week, a place that was supposed to feel like celebration, but in that moment, felt heavy with something I couldn't name yet. I had a small gift in my hand, a watch I'd bought for Ryan, my older brother. It wasn't fancy, just something simple but meaningful. He'd always wanted a leather-strapped classic, and I'd scraped together the money to get it engraved with the coordinates of our childhood home. For the road ahead, I'd written on the tag. I figured I'd leave it in the bridal suite, where they were all getting ready, so Ryan could see it later. The hallway was quiet as I padded up the stairs. From the landing, I could already hear the bridesmaids laughing inside. I didn't want to interrupt. I just planned to open the door slightly, place the gift box on the side table, and slip away. Nothing more. But the door, it was already ajar. Not wide open, just slightly. Enough for sound to spill through. Enough for me to hear her voice. "He's sweet, okay? But that's not the same as love. I'm not marrying him because of love." I stopped mid-step. Another voice, one I didn't recognize but guessed was one of the bridesmaids, answered her in a low, amused tone. "So? Just smile for the photos. You'll be set for life. He worships you. Let him." They both laughed. It wasn't nervous laughter. It was confident, unapologetic. I froze. My fingers clenched around the ribbon on the gift box. A dozen things ran through my mind. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I misheard. But I knew what I heard. I reached into my pocket and hit record on my phone. I didn't think, I just did it. The phone captured the next few seconds. More laughter, then the bride's voice again. "Once the ring's on, he's locked in. If I really wanted to, I could still go back to Nathan. I've kept the door open." Nathan? An ex? A backup? I didn't wait to hear more. I took a quiet step back, turned around, and descended the stairs one careful step at a time. My heart was pounding. I still hadn't let go of the gift. Back downstairs, the rehearsal prep was in full swing. The caterers were setting up the dinner tent near the lake. Ryan was out front with my dad, going over the wine list with boyish enthusiasm, the kind you only see when someone is deeply happy and truly blind to what's coming. I looked at my brother and felt sick. This wasn't just about an overheard comment. This was about what it meant. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't having cold feet. She was calculated, strategic. She was marrying him for status, for comfort, for convenience. And she wasn't planning to love him at all. I walked over to the edge of the deck and sat down, pulling out my phone. I replayed the audio. Every word landed like a knife. I was about to delete it. I didn't want it on my phone. I didn't want this weight. But I couldn't. Something in me said, "Keep it. You may need it." I tucked the phone into my jacket and closed my eyes. As the sun dipped lower, the rehearsal dinner approached. Family and friends poured in, dressed in summer formals and full of laughter. The bride made her entrance in a deep green silk dress, her hair curled, her smile flawless. You'd never know anything was amiss. I couldn't look away from her. She hugged my mother, kissed my brother's cheek, clinked champagne glasses with a laugh that sounded almost too polished, like she was already performing for the world. And Ryan? He was beaming. He held her hand, like she was everything he ever dreamed of. That was what made it unbearable. He loved her, sincerely. He believed in every word she'd ever said. I drifted near the edge of the tent, where I could watch but not be pulled in. I didn't feel like I belonged there anymore. Not with what I knew. Part of me wanted to take Ryan aside and tell him, "Just say it. She doesn't love you. She's using you." But another part of me hesitated. What if he didn't believe me? What if he thought I was jealous, or worse, trying to sabotage his happiness? After all, I'd never been the successful brother. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment and taught night classes. Ryan ran his own tech firm and was marrying the woman he'd met at a Fortune 500 gala. Would he even listen to me? That was when she caught my eye from across the lawn. The bride. She gave me a soft, deliberate smile. Not friendly, not warm, but sharp, as if she knew. And suddenly, I was sure. She had heard me too. She knew I was there. The moment locked between us, silent and dangerous. I had something in my pocket that could destroy her entire plan. But she had something too. Power over a family that adored her, a wedding that was already paid for, and a man who was ready to say, "I do," without hesitation. I turned and walked toward the bar. I didn't want to drink. I just needed to think. This wasn't just about telling my brother anymore. This was about preparing for the fallout. And somewhere deep in my gut, I knew I wasn't the only one about to get hurt. The rehearsal dinner was an elegant lie wrapped in fairy lights. I sat through the salad course, barely tasting a thing. Every time the bride laughed, it rang in my head like a warning bell. She leaned against Ryan's shoulder, posed for pictures with relatives she barely knew, and played her part like a Broadway star on opening night. I couldn't take it anymore. As soon as the band took a break and guests began to drift toward the dessert table, I stood up and walked straight toward her. She was in the middle of a conversation with one of Ryan's college friends. When she saw me approach, her smile didn't even flicker. She excused herself and followed me without a word, her heels tapping behind me as we entered the side hallway that led to the coat room. I closed the door behind us. We were alone. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I took out my phone and hit play. Her voice filled the room, muffled slightly by the door, but unmistakable. The words repeated back like a ghost. He's sweet, okay? But that's not the same as love. She didn't flinch. She didn't deny it. She just waited until the audio finished, then looked me straight in the eye and said, "And what exactly do you plan to do with that, hero?" I didn't answer. She stepped forward, calm as a storm before it hits. "You think Ryan will believe you over me? You think he won't assume you edited it somehow? That you misheard, or made it up? He loves me." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this disgusting." Her face changed. Slowly, the sweet, polished exterior peeled back. And underneath, there was nothing soft. Only calculation. "Let's say you do tell him," she said, folding her arms. "Let's say you hand him that recording. What if I tell him I've been keeping a secret too?" I narrowed my eyes. She leaned in. "What if I say I slept with you? That I've been hiding it because I didn't want to hurt him? That you've been obsessed with me for months, and I finally caved? You think anyone will believe your version over mine? I'll cry. I'll sob. I'll tell them you cornered me. You manipulated me." I stepped back. "That's insane." "It's convincing," she said. "And that's all that matters. In a room full of people, you'll be the villain. You'll lose your brother, your parents, your job, probably. The press would eat it alive if they found out their little startup golden boy's brother was caught trying to sabotage a wedding." My chest was tight. I couldn't breathe for a moment. She saw that and smiled. "You think you're doing the right thing, but really, you're throwing yourself into a fire that doesn't need to be lit," she whispered. "Let me marry him. Let us have this. I'll make him happy enough. He'll never know. And you?" She looked me over with open disgust. "You can go back to your little life with your conscience intact." I said nothing. "You have 10 minutes before the toasts start," she added. "I'd suggest deleting that file and fixing your face." Then she walked out. I stood there a long time. Maybe 2, 3 minutes. My heart was slamming against my ribs. The room felt like it was collapsing inward. I stared at the phone in my hand. I could just delete it. I could go home. Say nothing. Let Ryan live in whatever fantasy she'd sold him. But then I remembered something. Something stupid. Something small. When we were kids, Ryan and I used to build Lego castles together. I always wanted to add trapdoors and dungeons. He wanted balconies, towers, flags on the roof. He said, "What's the point of building something strong if no one can stand proudly on it?" He believed in the best version of things. Of people. Of love. I couldn't let that version of him be betrayed by someone like her. I pulled up the transcript I'd typed into notes from the audio. Word for word. I checked it. Corrected punctuation. I made it readable. Shareable. Then I saved it. Closed the app. Slipped the phone back into my jacket. 10 minutes later, the guests were seated again. Waiters brought out trays of champagne. The groom's party and the bridal party were seated at the head table beneath the glowing lights. Everyone was waiting for the toasts. I slid back into my chair beside Ryan. He nudged me with his elbow. "Where'd you disappear to?" he whispered. I smiled. "Not out of happiness, but necessity." "Bathroom line," I said. "What did I miss?" He raised his glass. "Just the usual. Praise, sentiment, awkward dad jokes." Then he turned toward the crowd and stood up, ready to give his own toast. Everyone cheered softly. Glasses clinked. I didn't look at the bride. Not yet. Instead, I slipped the phone from my pocket, pulled up the Notes app, and quietly handed it to my brother. "Read it," I whispered. "Please, before you speak." He looked confused, but he saw my expression. He trusted it. His brow furrowed. His eyes dropped to the screen. Then he started reading, line by line. His posture changed. First rigid, then heavy. His hand slowly lowered the champagne glass. His eyes stopped blinking. He didn't look at me. He didn't have to. He closed the app, put the phone in his pocket, then stepped forward, tapped the mic, and cleared his throat. The crowd quieted. All eyes on him. The bride smiled brightly from her seat. Posed. Perfect. She had no idea. Ryan tapped the mic twice. The quiet settled in like mist, slow and heavy. All heads turned toward him, including hers. She tilted her chin slightly and gave him the kind of smile that photographs well, warm, practiced, perfectly insincere. He didn't return it. He looked out at the guests, our parents, our cousins, her friends, his business partners, their old professors. Every single one of them waiting for the usual. A glowing tribute to love, a cute anecdote about how they met, maybe a line that makes the bride wipe away a tear. Instead, he started with this. I'd like to talk about belief. He paused. I could see it in the way his fingers tensed against the podium's edge. He was holding back an avalanche. Belief is a strange thing, he continued. It's how we build trust. Marriages, companies, even families. We believe someone is who they say they are, and that belief becomes the foundation for everything else. A few people glanced at one another. Not confused, exactly, just sensing a different tone. Ryan looked down, then up again. His voice was calm. Until we find out it was all a script. A performance. Now there was a ripple. I saw one of her bridesmaids tilt her head, whisper something. A few guests began shifting in their seats. The bride's smile faltered, just for a breath, but it returned quickly. Still, Ryan wasn't looking at her. He looked directly at our parents. I've always believed that people show you who they are, he said. But sometimes, you need help seeing it. That's when he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. He held it in one hand, turned slightly toward the speakers behind him, and tapped the screen. The recording started playing. Her voice filled the tent. He's sweet, okay? But that's not the same as love. A pause. Then, just smile for the photos. You'll be set for life. Then her again. If I really wanted to, I could still go back to Nathan. I've kept the door open. The audio ended. A few gasps. One audible Jesus. The silence after was deeper than anything I've ever felt. You could hear forks resting on plates. The faint buzz of the sound system. Even the rustle of someone adjusting their sleeve felt too loud. She stood up. I don't know what that is, she stammered. That's fake. That's not real. He must have edited. Ryan finally looked at her. Don't lie to them, he said, voice flat. She blinked. Then, seeing the room wasn't reacting in her favor, she changed tactics instantly. She turned to the crowd and pointed at me. You all don't know what he's really like, she said, voice rising. He's been obsessed with me. For months. He's the one who made advances. He cornered me last week. He threatened me. Heads turned. Murmurs broke out. My chest tightened, but I didn't speak. Not yet. Ryan looked at her, then back at the guests. Calm. Measured. She told him. He said, gesturing toward me, that if he said anything to me, she would lie. That she would accuse him of things he didn't do. That he'd lose his family, his job, his future. More gasps. A few people looked physically sick. The bride's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then her own maid of honor, one of the voices on the recording, stood up slowly. I was in the room, she said. It's real. That's exactly what she said. The bride turned, stunned. You're dead to me, she hissed. The maid of honor just looked down and sat back down. She didn't say another word. Everything unraveled quickly after that. Ryan took a breath. There will be no wedding, he said. There will be no honeymoon. No photos. No first dances. He looked around the room once more. I apologize to all of you who flew in, who gave your time, who believed in something that never existed. The bride stood frozen. Humiliation didn't look the way I thought it would on her. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was brittle, like glass under pressure. She looked at Ryan. Please don't do this. He didn't answer. He walked back to our table, placed the mic on the cloth, sat down beside me. The bride finally moved. She stormed past the tables, heels clacking like hammer strikes. She snatched a champagne flute on the way out and hurled it at the tent wall. The glass shattered. Then she disappeared into the night. The guests sat in stunned silence. Ryan poured himself a glass of water. I leaned in. You okay? He stared at the table for a moment, then nodded, slowly. I trusted her, he said. But I trust you more. That sentence did something to me. I knew something was wrong, he added. But I didn't want to believe it. You made me look. I didn't reply. We just sat there for a while, letting the noise fade. People started leaving. A few came by to shake Ryan's hand. One woman cried and told him she was proud of him for not going through with it. A few people avoided us entirely. But it didn't matter anymore. Because the truth was out. The tent slowly emptied as night settled over the lake. Chairs were left skewed around tables like abandoned chess pieces. Half-filled glasses glinted under the soft string lights. Dessert plates had been forgotten. In the far corner, a server tried discreetly sweeping up the shattered champagne glass without stepping into the awkward tension still hanging in the air. Ryan and I sat side by side, watching the aftermath of the truth. He hadn't moved much since giving the speech. His hands were folded on the table. Calm. Too calm. I kept stealing glances at him, expecting something to crack. But he just sat with it, like someone who had made peace with pulling a splinter out with his own teeth. Our dad walked over, placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. Proud of you, son, he said, quiet. You did the right thing, even when it hurt. That was the first time I saw Ryan's jaw twitch. He didn't reply, just gave a nod, and Dad walked away. A few more guests came up to offer awkward support or stunned apologies. Others avoided him completely. Our mom was in tears, not from shame, but from relief, I think. She kept saying over and over, I always felt something was off. I just didn't know what. By now, the bride, ex-bride, was long gone. No one had seen her leave. Her parents were too embarrassed to stay. Her father left with barely a word, her mother behind him with a scarf pulled tight around her face. Later that night, Ryan and I sat on the back deck, away from everyone. The lake shimmered under the moonlight like a mirror nobody wanted to look into. I handed him a beer. Neither of us drank much, but tonight called for something to mark the line between before and after. He took a sip and stared out at the dark water. Do you remember, he said, when we were kids and we built that boat out of plywood and rope? I smiled faintly. Yeah, you tried to paddle it across the pond behind Grandpa's cabin. Sank before you even got halfway. He smirked. You told me it would. I didn't listen. There was a long pause. Sometimes you don't know you're already sinking until someone makes you look down, he said. I let that sit between us. Then I told him the part one hadn't said yet. I confronted her before dinner, I admitted. I let her hear the recording. Gave her a chance to explain. Ryan turned his head, watching me now. She didn't deny it, I said. She threatened me. Told me she'd say I forced something. That I'd lose everything. That you'd never believe me. He said nothing at first. Then quietly. That's why you looked pale as hell when I sat down. I nodded. I nearly didn't tell you. She was convincing. Cold. Strategic. And if I had stayed quiet, she would have smiled through the ceremony tomorrow like nothing happened. Married you. Bled you dry. Ryan looked away again. Would you have believed her? I asked. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. But then, no, he said. But I would have wanted to. That's the dangerous part. The next morning, word had already spread. Her bridesmaids had packed up and vanished before sunrise. One of them texted Ryan a short message. We didn't know it was this deep. I'm sorry. Vendors began calling with confused follow-ups. The wedding coordinator was panicking about the deposit loss. The venue owner offered to reduce the cancellation fee out of sympathy. But Ryan didn't flinch. He paid what he had to. He called off the photographer, the decorator, the band. He canceled the honeymoon. He answered every message himself and told each person the truth. There won't be a wedding. Not anymore. He didn't hide. And surprisingly, people respected that. 2 days later, I was packing up my things when Ryan knocked on my door. He looked tired, but lighter. Something in his posture had changed. She texted me, he said. Said she was sorry I let my jealous brother poison me. Then she warned me I'd regret it once the gossip started. What did you say? He handed me his phone. The message read, I trusted the wrong person. But it wasn't my brother. Good luck manipulating someone else's life. I handed the phone back. He shrugged. It's strange. I feel okay. Yeah. He nodded. Because the worst thing wasn't her lying. It was the idea that I could have spent the next 10 years thanking her for it. He walked back to his room, leaving me alone with that thought. That evening, before we left the lake house, Ryan did one final thing. He wrote a short email to all the guests. Just a few paragraphs. Polite. Honest. Simple. He explained that he called off the wedding after discovering serious misrepresentation from his fiancée and that it had been a painful but necessary decision. He thanked everyone for their support and understanding. Then he added this sentence at the end. I'm lucky to have had someone close to me who risked everything to show me the truth. That's what real love looks like. I didn't realize until later that he was talking about me. And that was when I understood something I hadn't the night of the toast. When she threatened me, she was right about one thing. I did have something to lose. But what she never understood was this. Some risks are worth it. And some truths are more important than comfort, than reputation, than a perfect wedding. Because love, the kind that matters, isn't just something you say in front of 150 guests. It's what you do when no one's watching. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.